Vayichan sham Yisrael neged ha'har, ahar kulanu ke'echad.
It's truly an honor to be part of a program like this. I give hakaras hatov to the organizers for such an incredible moment of Kiddush Hashem, and I hope that it gives Hashem so much nachas that he decides to reveal himself this year the way he did during the times of Matan Torah. So we're coming up against one of the greatest holidays of the year. It celebrates the most important moment in history, the moment where the creator of humanity revealed himself to a nation of people. It's hard for us to appreciate it, but it's the most cataclysmic day in the history of the world, that God revealed himself on a national stage and handed the Jewish people the book that would ultimately become the most important thing in civilization, civilized humanity. The reason why me and you are here today is because of that moment. But for the book, we wouldn't have a nation. You would think that if there was ever a holiday that would be the most celebrated holiday, to be this one. Think about how much celebration goes into the Super Bowl. How much time and attention. How clear every moment is. How much history and drama goes into that game. You would think, Kal v'chomer, for the day that God revealed himself, it would be the biggest event in the world. Not only is Pesach a bigger deal, not only on Pesach do we spend hours with the kids at night, going through the story, eating the matzah, drinking wine. On Sukkot, we're sitting literally in the greatest experiential education that we can find in the Sukkot. And Yom Kippur, we're in the Kittles. Shavuos is just a regular Yontif. There's a moment where we lane, but outside the laning, we don't really celebrate it at a level of national grandeur as the other ones. We stay up all night, but that was relatively new. But it goes so much further. What's the name of the holiday? The holiday is called Shavous. Why? Because we count down to it or count up to it. Really? Does that make sense? The reason why we count up to something is because it's important. But the counting, the weeks in between Pesach and Shavuos, that's not what's important. What's important is the event you're counting towards. When you get to the top of the mountain after counting weeks and you go, what is this? And you go, oh, this is called weeks, Shavuos, Shavuot. You're going, wait, we just did that. No. All the weeks you counted? Yeah, you know what this is called? Weeks. They're like, no. We did that. This is like an Abbott and Costello routine. The weeks. No, weeks is going to, what? This is called the Super Bowl. The season is the lead up to the Super Bowl. If you get to the Super Bowl and they call the game the season, you'd be like, no, that's not the season. That's the season. That's not weeks. That's the top of the mountain. That's the destination that the weeks are leading towards. Why is that called weeks for? But I'll go even further. We're not even celebrating it on the right day. This is machlokas in the Gemara. It's the Gemara and Shabbos. The Chachamim and the Rav Yossi discuss whether Matan Torah fell on the 6th of Sinai or 6th of Sivan or the 7th of Sivan. This is machlokas based on how we understand the days of preparation. Hashem says, on the third day, prepare, and on the third day, Hashem will descend in front of the nations. And Moshe says, prepare yourself for 3 days. So there's a machlokas. If you start, we know they started preparing on the 4th day of Sivan. So if you say on the 3rd day Hashem's going to appear, as the pasuk says, so 4, 5, and on the 6th day he shows up. If we say, according to Moshe, take 3 days of preparation, so 4, 5, and 6 are 3 days, and then Hashem shows up on the 7th day. So when was it? On the 6th of Sivan or on the 7th of Sivan? You know how the Gemara paskins? On the 7th of Sivan. The Seder Olam says that that Matan Torah took place on Shabbos, and they left on Thursday. 51 days later, on the 7th of Sivan. That means that when we stay up all night this year, because the Jews didn't, they actually went to bed because the next morning wasn't Matan Torah. Not only is the day not celebrated nationally at that level, not only is the name of the holiday the weeks, we're not even doing it on the right day. I don't understand this. This is the most important day in the history of humanity. How do we nail this? How come this isn't where all the programs go towards? Doesn't it feel like this is sort of like a little bit of an afterthought? So what's going on? So I'll talk to you a little bit about the process. One of the great mistakes that we make, I believe, is that we think that the counting of Sphira is to count down to Matan Torah. Ask any kid, why do we count? Any kid out of any school. And they'll say, well, Shavuos is when we marry Hashem. That's a big day. So we're counting down to our wedding. And it's adorable when they say that. But is it true? Shavuos is the counting down to Hashem? Really? First of all, we count up. Second of all, do we need to count down? It should be on the calendar. Like, we know how to work a calendar. But what are we counting towards? We're not even counting down to anything. And we're not even counting up. We're counting up from the day after we left. What is this count? Where does it come from? What is it connected to? So if you notice something so interesting, that the count is called Sfiras HaOmer. Sfiras HaOmer, the Omer was a korban that we brought way after we were in the desert. We were in hundreds of years later. After the Beis HaMikdash was built, we had a korban called the Omer that took place the day after Pesach, and the Jews couldn't eat the new crop until they brought this korban, and the korban basically pottered up the food. It was a food korban. And when you gave this korban, all of a sudden, like, all the carbs you can eat, right? All the grain you couldn't eat, you gave the korban that night, it was a carb fest. The count that we have towards Matan Torah is named after the korban that allows us to eat more food. I mean, how Jewish could this be? What in the world? Why do we call the count Sfiras HaOmer? The Omer is about food. This is about Matan Torah. That's like if I got engaged, when I got engaged, if I would, like, the next day, if my friends took me out to, like, an all-you-can-eat buffet, and then, like, 2 weeks later, my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, today's day 14. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, counting. She's like, you're counting to what? I'm like, to our wedding. She's like, aren't you the cutest? I'm like, apparently I am. She goes, well, we're not getting married in 14 days. I said, I know. She goes, we didn't get engaged 14 days ago. I'm like, yeah, I know. She's like, so what are you counting? I'm like, I'm not counting down to our wedding. I'm not counting up from our engagement. I'm counting up from the buffet. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm counting from the buffet. She's like, how obsessed with food can you possibly be? We're not counting down from when we left Egypt. We're not counting down to Matan Torah. We're counting up from when we can start eating from the Omer, which we brought the day after Pesach. So let's understand this. A lot of questions. What took place during Matan Torah, during the Midbar? What did they do? The people transformed. You had a nation that was on the 49th level of Tumah, and by the time Hashem was done with them, they stood by Har Sinai in the 50th level of Kedusha. That's a 100-point swing. How? So I want to take you into one moment. This is one of the most powerful moments if you really get underneath it. To me, I spend a lot of time thinking about this one moment. Imagine, if you will, being a Jew in the desert. They leave the Yam Suf, they leave the sea. They're rocking and rolling. And they basically go into quarantine afterwards. right? They basically sit in a desert. How many miles is it from the Yam Suf until Mount Sinai? You got 2 million people. They sat. They had Ananiah covered, clouds of glory. Basically, they sat, air conditioning, food, and dry cleaning, which is like Jewish basics. And they're sitting there for a few days. And one day, the wife turns to the husband and says, "Honey, we got to talk. We got a problem." He goes, "What's the problem?" He says, "We have no more food." The husband goes, "How do we have no more food?" He goes, "Well, we took as much as we could. I carried what I could, right? And I put it on our backs and we put it on our donkeys, and there's only so much you can carry. Food ran out. Matzah ran out. What are we going to do? Kids are starving." And the husband said, "Well, good news. Because Hashem told Moshe that he's going to deliver man to each and every one of us. So we're good. Hashem's going to give us man." And the wife probably looked at the husband and like, "What? Like, with all due respect, I love you, but like, you're not exactly Moshe Rabbeinu. Like, I mean, I'm happy we're married, but like, you're not Nachshon. We're not like even in Shevet Yehuda. Like, I know this Hashem. I was around. The sea split. I got it. But you know where Hashem is? He's the big king. And he's got his officers. And he knows their families. Do you think Hashem knows that I got 3 kids?" And the husband probably went, "I don't know." And that first morning when he walked to get his man, my bet is that the husband probably walked with trembling hands. How is it possible that God who's so big, who's so powerful, knows my name? I'm so nothing. I'm so little. And he walked to his spot, and I'm sure when he looked down, he couldn't believe his eyes. Peace for him, peace for his wife, and all of his children. He came back, put it on the table, and his wife went, 1, 2, 3, 4. How does God know our names? I don't know. You know the best part about the man was? It was the ultimate in rituals. It's perfect. It has to do with our food, which is Jews. That's what God knows. If he needs our attention, mess with our food, which is why you can't eat on Yom Kippur or Tisha B'Av. And it had to be every day. You couldn't keep it any. You kept extra, it spoiled. So you know what happened every single morning? You got to go through the same process. You got to leave your home and say, God can't know how many kids I have. My wife gives birth to a baby. God doesn't know that I had a kid. And you walk to your spot and there's one more piece waiting for you. Your mother comes for Shabbos. The slave that you had, you sell. Everything that takes place in your life, you wake up the next morning and right in front of you is a piece of mun for that person. You look up and go, how does God know my name? You think God knows my name? The mun moves based on your level of righteousness. That means that if at night you did a sin that nobody saw, when you woke up the next morning, the mun was further. And if at night you did tshuva, you woke up that next morning and it was closer. Because the goal of the mun was one thing. It was to take the Jewish people from a nation that believed in God as the king, that was far and big, to God as their father, as their mother, as their beloved that was close, that fed them out of his own hand. Because the goal of Har Sinai is not to give a nation a bunch of rules that they're going to just follow in a way in servitude. The goal of Har Sinai was to create a relationship with a nation in which that relationship would be like a spouse, like a parent, filled with love. If you accept a mitzvah on the way you accept a burden from a taskmaster, you're missing the entire point of why God gave us the Torah. The gezeros that Hashem gave us, Ani avdecha ben amasecha, that David Melech said, wasn't a sense of I'm burdened by it and I want to remove it, the all on top of me. It was a sense of I'm freed by it. Pitach de l'moserai. All I want is you, Hashem. All I want is to understand your ways because you're the ultimate native and you built a world to give it to me. And I'm a young kid in this world and you're the wise parent. And I don't know why I do what I do. But if I don't believe in my core that what you want from all of this is a relationship, then my Judaism, even if I check every single Jewish box, is lacking. If I've done everything right with my hands, but never given you my heart, because I pretend as if I'm not emotionally connected to it. Rahmana de liba boy, he says. God's like, no. You think I'm giving this stuff to you because I need it? You think somehow I'm doing something for me? I'm doing this for you. And you got to know in your core that you're my son, you're my daughter, you're my spouse, you're my beloved. I can't give you a Torah if you don't know that. I can't give you the book. I can't give you the source of everything. I can't give you me because the Torah is what is a manifestation of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's on Hashem. It's a manifestation of a piece. I can't give you me if you're not willing to accept it b'ava. It's the entire goal of the Jews in the Midbar to prepare themselves for Matan Torah is for themselves to grow in their own hakaras of Hashem, their own visibility of the level of care that Hashem has for them every single day. The man. And Hashem says, here's what's going to happen. This is going to be done at some point. We're going to have to get out of the midbar. You can't be here forever. And you're going to get out into the real world. And when you get out into the real world, you're going to forget about me. You're going to think that it's you. In the beginning, you will. But then you'll start saying, wow, I can plant. Wow, look at this irrigation technique that we did. And you're going to forget about me. I don't want you to forget about me. I don't want you to forget about me because I want the relationship with you. So here's how I'm going to keep you. Every year when you go out and do all your grains and do all the stuff that you do, you can't have any of it. You can't eat any of it. Because I want you to hold it back and I want you to go down to the Kohen. I want the Kohen to bring a carbon and the name of the carbon is going to be Omer. You know why I call it Omer for? Even though it's a carbon of barley. You know why I should call it Omer for? Because Omer is a trigger word. You know what the last time you heard Omer, Hashem says? Where does Omer come from? Omer is a measurement. Well, what was the measurement of Omer? Well, how much mun did we get? We got an Omer. The Omer is actually the trigger word to the mun. Hashem says, you're going to be living in Eretz Yisrael. You're going to be planting and plowing and sowing and harvesting, and you're going to forget about me. And if you forget about me, you're going to lose the relationship. So every single year, don't eat anything until you go down into the Kohen shows up and brings a carbon Omer. And that carbon Omer will remind you that the thing that I gave you, the wheat, the grain, the grapes, the dates, the money, all of it, the F-16s, the Wi-Fi, Weiss, all of it, that's just mine. It's me feeding you. It's me hoping that you understand that I'm here every second. I'm always right behind you. I'm always right in front of you. I'm your father. That's what it means to be a Jew, to walk with that level of knowledge. As one Rav once told me, he said, what it means to be a Jew, what it means to love Hashem is to know that Hashem has one picture in his wallet and it's you. Now watch how this works, and with this I'll end. the most important day of the year is Shavous, is Matan Torah. But you know how important it is? It's so important that the last thing Hashem wants is for us to commemorate it. As Rav Dessler says, holidays aren't commemorative. They're not events in the past. They're dynamic. They're spiritual opportunities in the present. We use the past as a pathway into the present. Now that applies in every yontif. But if we commemorate a little bit too much in Pesach, it'll be okay. If we have a little bit too much commemoration in Sukkot, we get a little too lost into the Sukkot, fine. But if we commemorate a little bit too much in Shavuos, we're going to miss the point. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu says the entire point of Matan Torah is not that I gave it once to the Jewish people. The entire point of Matan Torah is that every single year I am giving it to you. The greatest way that we can commemorate Matan Torah is if I can actually do it year after year. The greatest way to remember the Super Bowl is if you play in the Super Bowl every year. The greatest way to do that. How do we do this? Here's how Hashem says. You know what the Jews worked on throughout this period of time? They worked on building a relationship with me. They worked on seeing me in everything. We first did it with Man, then we did it with the Korban Omer. You know what's going to happen every single year afterwards? You're going to count. Not down. You know when it is on the calendar. You're counting up. Because you know what you're counting? Your own growth. Today's day 1 of the Omer. Omer, the Man. Okay, Hashem's in my life. Today's day 20 of the Omer. 20 days. Do I still think Hashem just lives in the heavens? 20 days. Don't I see him walking around? Don't I see him in carpool? Don't I see him in my life? Aren't I looking for him in every coincidence? Aren't I looking him in every good feeling? Am I not cleaning my glasses to find Hashem? My great-grandparents were. My great-grandparents at this point were walking down the desert, seeing the mud and going, it's you. Am I doing that? Today's day 30 of the Omer. The Omer, the Man. You get to the top of the line, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets to the top and you go, I'm here, Hashem. Hashem says, you know what today's called? Chachamim put it together, go, you know what today's called? Shavuos. Wait, Shavuos? Yeah. There's no destination in Torah. There's no end in a relationship. You don't get to the end of a marriage and go, this is all I can do, honey. You don't get to the end of parenting and go, this has been it. Kids, it's been a pleasure. I'm out. The relationships are always growing. The relationship is the journey of the relationship. Hashem says, you know what the top of the mountain looks like? It looks like the journey that took you here. And if your journey never started, if you never did Shavuos, you can't get to the top of the mountain. Your mountain this year is on the floor. It's a little of an anthill. But if you journeyed, if you're with me, if you're looking for me, if your life is Shavuos, guess what? Matan Torah is just the manifestation of Shavuos. Because the relationship, the top of the peak in relationships are just the manifestation of the journey of the relationship. Doesn't matter if you know Shas or don't know Shas yet. Are you learning? Are you trying? You could have someone who knows everything and he's on the way down, and someone who knows nothing is on the way up. They're totally different people in Hashem's eyes. Are we striving? Are we in Shavuos? Because if we're in Shavuos, then we get to celebrate Matan Torah. And if we roll into Matan Torah with, I'm here now, oh, remember the old days? It ain't going to work. And that may be exactly why we keep it on the 6th of Sivan, because there's no old days to even turn to. You can't commemorate anything because it's the wrong day. If you want to commemorate, you commemorate on the 7th of Sivan. The fact you're doing it on the 6th means it didn't even happen then. The Kodesh Baruch Hu says it's 50 days. So who cares what happened on the first day? There was a glitch. They had 3 more days to prepare. They had an extra day to prepare and ended up being 7th. What does that have to do with you? You're not accepting their Torah. They're accepting your Torah. And your Torah is coming at you 50 days from Pesach. This is the greatest celebration. This is the greatest way to celebrate this day, because this is the day where Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I'm not having it commemorative at all. This whole thing's about you, and it's about now. This journey is this journey that your grandparents took. And you're going to be counting the way they counted. And when you get there, you realize that there isn't even a top. There's only the journey. And if you think you're to commemorate, you got the wrong day. This is what makes this Yontif so powerful. This is what makes this religion so powerful. No matter where we are in life, we can always start the journey. No matter where we are in life, we can always put one foot in front of the next and try to find Hashem in our lives. And try to learn looking for Him. That Torah that we're given is not for us to look smart. It's not for us to get something from it. It's for us to find God. To emulate Him. To connect to Him. To follow in His ways. To build the relationship to Him. And when we spend the time working on that, then we find that top. And we get our own Matan Torah. Wherever you are, try to take something on. 5 minutes a day. That gets you closer to God. But make it consistent. Turn to Hashem and say, this is my Sfiras Omer. I'm going to talk to you once a day through His Bodhisattva. I'm going to daven a little bit slower today and every day. I'm going to learn a little bit slower so that I really understand what I'm learning. I'm going to do something every day to show you that I'm walking my own path. I'm climbing my own mountain. I'm counting my own Omer. I'm going to look for you in life. And if we do that, then what we know in our core is that Matan Torah is going to come to me and you in our own way, personally, from Hashem. Hayom, today. Hayom. Each and every one of us has our own Hayom. We should be Zocha. That this Shavuos and every day afterwards is a day where God gives us the Torah personally. And then we grow every single day to a real relationship with Hashem. We live Shavuos. We don't celebrate Shavuos. And with that, we should become the people, all of us, that Hashem looks to and says, it's time to reveal myself again. May it come soon in our days. Good Yontif. Amen.